So this week we're going to talk about the ESP32 and the real-time clock. And the reason a real-time clock is important to us is because when we start talking about whisper, it has to happen at a certain time mark every 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And you need to make sure that your clock is accurate in order to make sure that everybody picks you up properly and your message doesn't get cut off. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the internal ESP32 clock and then also an external ESP32 clock, as well as using the network time protocol. So let's go ahead and let's get into our presentation here, and we'll go over the goals. So our goals are going to be basically how to interact with the ESP32 internal real-time clock, understand how to retrieve the current time using Wi-Fi and a network network time protocol. And then we're also going to look at how to interface with either the DS3231 or DS1307 real-time clock module. And the difference basically between using the internal and external, as we'll get into the next one here. So the ESP32 actually has two internal real-time clocks. It has a real-time clock timer, basically allows timekeeping, whether you're in sleep or deep sleep mode, light sleep mode. It can persist time, keeping across any resets, as long as it's not a power on reset. So as long as there's power to the board, 3.3 volts, then it will keep the time, and which is good for something that is always going to be powered up and you don't need it. But if you should lose power or you disconnect it and you come back on it, then you have to reset the time. There's also a high resolution timer. It's not available in the sleep modes, and it doesn't persist over a reset. But it has greater accuracy. So you can use those as long as your clock is up and running, and say, I want to use it for delays or interrupts and stuff like that. It's great. But if you're looking at stuff that you need to actually track the actual time across power resets and sleep modes and that, then we really want to use a different method. Now what we can do is we can use the network time protocol. So basically there are servers all over the world that maintain, just like the atomic clock, they maintain the time, and you can go out over Wi-Fi and connect to it and get the time back and set your internal clock, which we'll do an example of today. This is great because it's very simple to do, and you'll see two examples where we're using the internal time library, and then we'll also look at one where we're actually using an NTP client. But what basically happens is your ESP32 has to be connected over Wi-Fi to the router and have access to the internet. If you don't have internet access, this method's not going to work. But you can actually make a call. It'll go out to the server and bring back the time, and then you can adjust it based on your GMT offset if you want to maintain local time versus GMT time. And then you can actually set the real-time clock to that, and it'll maintain it until the next power on reset. Well, what happens if you don't have Wi-Fi in that? We've got to look at a different source, and so we can use a battery backup real-time clock module. This is an example of the DS1307. I think I also had you guys look at buy the 3231s. Just any type of real-time clock module will work. And what it is it actually works over the same I2C serial interface as our SI5351 and the monitor does, the OLED display. So we can actually just hook it up daisy chain it to the rest of them, and then we can actually set the time. And then even after it shuts down, because it does have a battery, they usually have a coin cell like a CR2032. When it powers back up, it will remember the time. It also has a temperature controlled oscillator on it, so that it's actually very accurate and very stable.